Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're taking a bit of a detour.
A very specific one.
A very specific one, yeah. We're diving into the, let's say, the hyper-specialized world of fish keeping.
Right.
We're looking at these incredible behavioral observations from the log of an experienced fish keeper, focusing on a really unique hybrid species, the Polar Parrot Cichlid.
That's right. The source is kianeminigel.org, part 168. And it's a fantastic example of just deep observation.
It really is.
And our mission here is to really analyze the parenting dynamic, which is, you'll see, surprisingly complex for this fish.
And the log sets the stage perfectly.
Yeah.
The spawn they're watching has just hit what's called the free-swimming phase.
Which is the critical point.
Explain that. What does that mean for the fry, the baby fish?
It means they're not stuck on the bottom anymore. They're starting to venture up toward the surface, and that makes them, incredibly vulnerable all of a sudden.
Suddenly visible.
Visible and a target. And this is where the parenting really kicks into high gear. And what's fascinating is how they immediately divide up the work.
Okay.
So the observer contrasts the polar parrot with another fish, the round jewel cichlid.
And why is that comparison important? What's the baseline?
The round jewel cichlid is sort of the textbook example of cichlid parenting.
Okay, so what, 50-50?
Exactly. The male and female share duties almost equally. Guarding, fanning the eggs, managing the fry. It's a balanced partnership. Both are doing a bit of everything.
But that's not what we see with the polar parrot.
Not at all. With the polar parrot, the source makes it, well, crystal clear. The primary active responsibility for the young falls almost entirely on the female.
A really extreme division of labor, then.
It is, and we have to ask why. Why would one parent take on so much more of the active work?
So what are these two different roles exactly?
The observer breaks it down into active management versus static defense.
Let's start with the active part, the female. The source says she's constantly keeping the fry in tight clusters.
Yes, and that word tight is key.
What does that actually achieve?
It's an incredibly high-energy defense strategy. She's constantly nudging them, corralling them, physically pushing them back together if they start to wander off.
So it's not a passive thing.
Not at all. And it does a couple of things. First, density. It's much harder for a small predator to pick off one target from a dense ball than a scattered group.
Safety in numbers.
Exactly. And second, it's about concealment. It minimizes movement, makes them less obvious, especially as they're now swimming higher up in the tank. It takes constant work on her part.
Okay, so she's the kinetic force, constantly managing this little swarm.
Yeah.
What about the male?
The male is the static anchor.
The source says he just stays nearby, guarding the artificial cave. In this case, it was a terracotta pot.
Right. He is all about protecting the home base. His job is territorial defense. While she's out there with the vulnerable mobile fry, he's making sure nothing gets near their safe zone.
So he's looking out for bigger threats.
Precisely. If another fish tries to encroach on their territory, the area right around that pot, the male is the one who deals with it. He's the bouncer.
So you have this truly asymmetrical model. She's doing constant active management, and he's doing passive, you could say, perimeter defense.
That's a great way to put it. And the observer noted this has been the pattern the whole time.
Since the eggs were laid.
On the moment the eggs were spotted, yes. This isn't a random thing. It seems to be a very successful behavioral strategy for this particular pair.
It just raises the question, though, why not have both parents clustering? Wouldn't that double their effectiveness and improve the survival odds?
You'd think so, but it's a resource allocation problem.
How so?
If both parents are out there chasing down fry, who's watching the house?
Right, the pot.
The pot. The male's presence, just staying there, is a deterrent. It ensures a larger threat can't just swoop in and claim their territory, or worse, surprise the female, while her focus is entirely on that cluster of fry.
So they're trading doubled clustering power for structural security.
It's a risk calculation. They are managing two different types of threats at the same time.
That makes a lot of sense. So let's look ahead. How long does this intense care go on for?
The source says a few more weeks.
And how do they, or how does the fish keeper, know when the fry are ready to be on their own? Is there a signal?
Oh, there's a very clear biological all-clear signal. It's not just a time thing. It's marked by very distinct physical changes in the fry themselves.
Okay, and the source points out two specific visual markers.
Exactly. The fried have to develop their characteristic balloon body shape, and they need to get their vertical stripes.
Let's unpack the shape first. The balloon body They start out looking more like, typical small fish,
Yeah.
right? More elongated.
Correct.
So why is getting that signature balloon shape the signal for independence? What does that actually mean for the fish, functionally?
Well, that shape is what makes a polar parrot a polar parrot. It's the result of the hybridization, and when the fry develop it, it's a sign that their internal systems are way more developed.
So it's more than just looks.
Much more. It probably means better buoyancy control, more swimming stability, and importantly, a digestive system that's robust enough to handle different kinds of food from all over the tank. They are, ready to navigate the world on their own.
Okay, and what about the stripes? That was the second marker.
The stripes are critical. For a lot of young fish, early stripes are camouflage. They help them blend in.
Right, against rocks and plants.
Yeah. But as they get older, the purpose of the stripes can change. Once they're independent, these developed vertical stripes might shift from being just camouflage to being about species recognition or maybe even a small threat display to other little fish.
So the development of those markings means they've graduated from the hiding stage to the competing stage.
That's a perfect way to think about it. Their whole survival strategy is shifting.
So this intensive female-led clustering is for the vulnerable, elongated fry. But once they start to actually look like miniature versions of their parents, balloon shape, proper stripes, that's the biological green light for the parents to back off.
It is. And for the observer and for you, the listener, these visual cues are just an invaluable shortcut. You don't have to guess. The fish themselves show you the timeline.
This brings us to the third big insight from the log, and it's maybe the most important one. It connects all this behavior back to the biology of the fish itself. The observer notes that the spawn sizes are relatively small. And this is a trend they saw everywhere, not just in their own tank, but in local fish stores too.
And this is where we hit the fundamental constraint of this fish being a hybrid.
It's not a coincidence.
No, it's not about diet or bad luck. It's intrinsically linked to their hybrid nature. It's a forced trade-off.
So what is the specific physical trade-off that's limiting how many eggs they can have?
It all comes down to internal architecture. You could call it internal real estate.
Okay.
The Polar Parrot Cichlid was bred for one thing, that compact balloon body shape. It's an aesthetic choice, but that body shape, it compresses everything inside.
It squishes the organs.
It squishes the organs, and that severely limits the amount of space inside the female's body to actually produce and hold eggs.
Wow. So the very feature that defines the fish, that cute, compact body, is the exact reason they can't have large spawns.
Precisely. They traded reproductive quantity for that unique look.
And that biological reality, that small batch size, must put immense pressure on their parenting.
It explains everything. If you know you can only produce, say, a few dozen fry instead of a few hundred, the survival of every single one becomes critical.
So that's why the female's care is so hyper-vigilant.
Yes, it's an evolutionary adaptation to make up for the low volume output. Every single fry counts.
That's a fascinating connection. The structure of the body directly dictates the parenting behavior. It's quality control over quantity.
It is.
But the observer did add a bit of nuance to this. The small batch size isn't like a fixed number for the fish's whole life.
Right, and that's an important point. A young pair, especially on their first spawn, will have the absolute smallest batches. That's pretty common for a lot of cichlids.
So as they get bigger and more mature, the batch size increases.
It should, yes. A larger, more mature female just has a bit more space, and her body is more efficient. She can put more energy into egg production.
So the number goes up, but it's still always going to be small compared to other cichlids.
Exactly. The trend of small batch sizes remains because that fundamental body shape doesn't change. Their capacity is always going to be limited, which means their parental investment has to stay incredibly high for every single spawn.
So to synthesize all this, we've learned the female takes the active, kinetic lead, clustering the young.
While the male provides static defense, guarding the home base.
And the fry are considered independent when they develop that functional maturity, which we can see in their balloon shape and their vertical stripes.
And tying it all together is the biological constraint. Their compact hybrid body limits their internal space, forcing them into smaller and therefore more precious spawns.
Which, in turn, necessitates that intense specialized parenting we see. It's a complete loop.
A beautiful loop of biology driving behavior.
It really gives you incredible insight into how these behaviors aren't just random. They emerge from very real physical limitations.
It does, and it leaves us with a final thought for you to consider, something that takes this observation and zooms out a bit.
Okay.
How often does our human intervention, when we breed animals for specific looks or traits, like the shape of this fish, how often does that introduce unexpected biological limits?
The polar parrot's parenting had to radically adapt to ensure survival because we designed it with less internal space. What other hidden adaptations are happening out there in the biological world as a result of choices that we've made? It's something to think about the next time you see a creature whose form seems to really truly dictate its fate.